Hello there. What do you know about DEI in education in America? Turns out, according to the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, under Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Department of Education spent over $1 billion promoting DEI in America's schools, I believe in the last couple of years. The years what it will see soon. I have the full report. Now, Elon Musk has tweeted this: DEI must die. The point was to end discrimination, not replace it with different discrimination. And that is what DEI is, in fact. Just discriminating against a different group. That's all. So, this is from the Parents Defending Education, where I believe they got the figure of $1 billion. Exposing $1 billion in Department of Education grant funding that has entrenched far-left ideologies in education. Total DEI grant money awarded 2021 to the present, so 3 years. $1 billion and change. They have, in fact, the DEI hiring, programming, and mental health/social emotional learning. Most of it is for hiring, $490 million. Then the programming for schools, $343 million, with $169 for the mental health, emotional learning pursuits. So they have all sorts of things here, like for example, Montgomery County Schools got $21 million for a program called Teacher and Principal Effectiveness Acceleration in Montgomery. It says it's a monthly Teaching in Color PD designed to build teachers and school leaders' ability to support a diverse student through equitable instructional and disciplinary practices to increase student achievement and decrease incidences of inequitable disciplinary practices. So not unjust, inequitable. So if, for example, let's say you have a school where you have a, let's say, low-income Black neighborhood as part of the area that the school covers, and also you have some maybe mixed or majority white neighborhoods that are higher income, and there are less problematic students from there because we know that poverty, and often coming from single parent homes, usually linked with poverty, can influence children to become less, how to put it, sociable, to become antisocial, to become potentially problematic, troublesome, violent. It's unfortunate, but it has bad negative effects on your ability to live as a law-abiding, productive citizen. So in such a situation, you would have more students of color being punished by the schools because they will be the ones mostly committing offenses. And in that situation, you are being forced to use your taxes. Essentially, the government is using your tax money to teach the teachers to punish students of color less in that situation. Not because they are being the teachers are prejudiced against them, not because they're being discriminated against, that's what I was looking for, but because the end result is that more students of color are being punished. So instead of saying, well, maybe we are servicing a certain community that's in dire straits and we need to see what we can do to help these people so that less students act out. No, instead we need to make sure that we have equitable results by essentially twisting the way we issue punishment in school, twisting the process in order to reach equitable results. And this is going to be awful for everyone. You are going to have students that act out and are not punished, or you will have students who aren't people of color being punished more harshly in order to make up a quota. Either way, you will breed a resentment between the two groups. You are creating future racism by trying to force equity right now without dealing with the underlying issues. And of course, it's going to be the same with grades. If you grade students of color more highly for the same result, once again, you're going to have people who don't have the skills to back up their grades, and they will get the resentment of their peers who did actually succeed and earn things. And also, nobody will want to hire or work with these people. If you know that let's say an Asian doctor is for sure worthy of the grades, but a black doctor might be or might not, because there's DEI. So there are black people who did an excellent job and got all the grades and they're great doctors, but there's also some of them that aren't, but they still got in anyway through DEI. Are you going to want to have a black doctor or an Asian doctor? Obviously, you'd want the one that for sure knows how to treat you. So they are destroying the fabric of society with all this DEI nonsense. It's starting and in schools and kindergartens, and the Department of Education is paying for it, and paying very well. This is $15 million in grant funding from the Department of Education for supporting Educator Excellence and Knowledge Program. It's more of the same, honestly. What I wanted to show you particularly was a bit further down. Here it is. Here it is. So this is the glossary for the Be the Change Consulting by all sorts of people. Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth, blah, blah, blah. What do they want the students to learn? Well, structural racism, a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. So if, for example, you have different cultures preaching different values and telling people to prefer and favor certain activities, opinions, or means, and there are different results based on that, well, that's an inequity. In other words, they try to say that every difference between groups must come down to only discrimination and nothing else. I don't agree with this. Look throughout history, there have been so many different groups who became dominant when they managed to create a stable society with good agricultural practices, proper military, with merit-based promoting and hiring of people. You've had the Ottoman Empire. You've had, I believe, a caliphate that almost conquered Europe, like they had to reconquer Spain in the Reconquista. You've had so many different empires that weren't by white people, and it wasn't due to discrimination. It's simply because as time goes on, some cultures rise and some cultures fall. Sometimes your culture will be the one on top, and currently, in our modern times, it's the West that has the most advanced culture, the most merit-based system, and so they're the ones on top. And then you have all sorts of other people coming in from different cultures, and sometimes they can adapt very well, the way that Asians have done, some specific Asian groups have done, and they're doing even better than white people in America. And sometimes they didn't adapt quite as well. And what we need to do is talk with them and get them to see that some of the things that they're doing through culture are not working, and that they should adopt some of the successful behaviors of groups like Asians and whites, not completely erase their culture, but adopt some of the values and behaviors that have proven successful, so that they too can be successful themselves. Instead, they are being told that every problem they have in their lives is due to discrimination only, and the way forward is to just discriminate in the other direction in order to create equity. And if you do that, everything will fall apart. We already saw it. I mean, you didn't have the whole planes having problems with doors and such in Boeing before DEI suddenly became a major factor. It's obviously due to not doing merit-based hiring anymore. And they are teaching this in school and using $1 billion from taxpayer money to do it. You have institutional racism. Institutional racism, that is policies and practices within and across institutions that intentionally or not, listen to the language. You might not intend to do it, but it produces outcomes that chronically favor or put a racial group at a disadvantage. So if, let's say, you have a completely merit-based process, and as a result, one group or another is advantaged or disadvantaged, then you are institutionally racist. Incidentally, if you take this to the logical conclusion, then America is institutionally racist in favor of Asians and Jews in academia, because they're the most successful groups in academia right now. And it's institutionally racist against black people as the ones who are doing the least well, with whites somewhere in the middle, which is very interesting for a supposedly white supremacist country. You have the white majority being racist in favor of Jews and Asians. Right, I'm sure. So essentially they're saying poignant examples of institutional racism can be found in school disciplinary policies in which students of color are punished at much higher rates than their white counterparts. In the criminal justice system and within many employment sectors in which day-to-day operations as well as hiring and firing practices can significantly disadvantage workers of color. So again, they don't consider Asians to be of color because they're doing better than white people on average. And they don't seem to care that the systems might or might not be merit-based. They don't even engage in the argument. They simply say if there is any inequity, it's the result of racism, it's immoral, we gotta not just remove it, we just gotta go the other way. We have to discriminate against the groups that are successful. And of course, individual racism includes face-to-face or covert actions towards a person that intentionally express prejudice, hate, or bias based on race. Incidentally, if you say bias, I wonder, so supposing, for example, you had, let's say, a woman who reads government statistics and says that most violent crime is done by young men. And that's why she's biased against, let's say, being alone after dark with strangers who are young men. Would she be, let's say, sexist by this definition? I just wonder. Because it's the exact same thing as if you said that, for example, young black men are way overrepresented in government crime in the US. Government statistics, I mean, in crime in the US. So they might be, people might be more on guard around them simply due to knowing that statistically they are the most likely to be dangerous. Nothing against an individual, but when you're talking with a stranger, it could be anything. Or for example, let's say that you are a security guard at an airport and you spend more time checking the young Muslim man than the old Asian grandma. Why? Because overwhelmingly terrorism is committed by people of the Muslim faith and Arab ethnicity, and Asian grandmas, or grandmas in general, honestly, are very rarely, if ever, the perpetrators. Is that going to be discrimination on an individual basis? According to this definition, I think so. The thing is, all of these definitions make zero sense if you actually try and sort of apply them to real life, but they don't care about any of that because their entire point is to grift. Their entire point is to divide us and to make money off of us hating each other, and also to make political capital. In other words, to try and back up their candidates. BLM, did you see the graphs? Every single time, 4 years, there's going to be an election, suddenly BLM is all over the news. All over the news. Democrats forget completely that BLM exists once they actually win or lose the election. Well, maybe if they lose, they might still remember it for some time in order to try and create social upheaval to harm their political opponents. But especially if they win, BLM disappears. There have been no sounds whatsoever during the Biden presidency. What did BLM do? Did they protest anything? Did they burn anything? Loot anything? No, nothing. Because BLM is a creature of the Democrats, let's be honest. Now, notice what they want the kids to do. Exploring white privilege. First sharing round. What does the term white privilege mean to you? Do you see white privilege in the world around you? If so, describe it. Search online for the article White Privilege Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh. A distributed copy to each participant, read out loud, allow a minute or two of silence for participants to digest or reread. And then, is anything in this piece surprising or compelling to you? If so, tell us what and why. What is the most important idea in the piece? What wisdom about white privilege would you want the teachers and others at your site to understand? So, is there any room for anyone to disagree with this? Of course not. Of course not. White privilege is real, harmful, and you must fight it. This is the only answer that could be acceptable in school, because you spent $1 billion in 3 years trying to make it so. How about you stop? You can save yourself $1 billion, let's say $333 million a year, just by not pushing race communism in schools. Sounds like a pretty good start to DOGE to me. Yeah, I can't help but feel that this is completely crazy. Also, the amount. Giving people $16 million to the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. Like, why? What are they going to do with $16 million for one institute? Maricopa County Education Service Agency, $11 million. Chico State Enterprises, $8 million. It's just insane. Even $400,000 is a lot, like Colton Joint Unified School District. But just think about it. How are you going to spend this much money, 20 or $16 million in lump sum just to some institution? It's amazing. And the amount of different ones. Notice how many of them in places like Florida too. And specifically, it seems to be Broward County, Miami-Dade County, places that, as far as I remember, might lean Democrat, seem to be getting a lot of money. Anyway, this is something that I hope will change. I've heard so many people, even here in Israel, talking about the importance of combating the ideological bent in education. And I believe I've mentioned in a recent video, maybe a week back, Elon Musk tweeting about 130 to 1 in terms of Democrats to Republican professors in universities, in the top 5 universities at the time of the survey was made. So absolutely, there is an ideological bend towards the left. It's very, very prominent, and we have to stop it because, you know, people keep saying that Democrats have far fewer kids, if any, than Republicans, and that's why the future is going to be Republican. I tell you, not if you keep letting them brainwash your kids at school and making you pay for it. It's almost a paraphrase of the Trump's build a wall and make the Mexico pay for it, right? Brainwash your kid to be lefties and make you conservatives pay for it. Stop it if you can, because otherwise you're going to have a very difficult time in the future, both in your personal life and in terms of voting for a candidate who does not hate your guts for the way you were born. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.